Still on This Morning on ITV, your station of choice. And today being Thursday, Nationalism and You. I am your host, Ebenezer Oyetakin, on this program, and we will be taking a look at security challenges and a suggestion by some Nigerians that we should license guns for the citizens to protect themselves. With me to take a look at this is an elder statesman, a medical doctor, and one whose names will ring bell in our ears because we are accustomed to that name, Dr. Tafawa Balewa Abdul Jalil. You are welcome to our studio, and in the characteristic of the studio, I say nationalism and you, sir.
It is my responsibility to help build this country and make it what we think it should be.
Thank you very much, sir. It is also my responsibility. Now there have been so much agitations and the call that Nigerians should be licensed to carry guns. This call in itself, let us look at the implication. What are the implications of this call?
It's a very, since it was a governor that said it, I have to watch my words. he could have thought about it a little bit better before saying that, because there are so many things that are attached to that. One, we have a very large population of young people. Two, we have a drug problem in the country. Three, we have very very difficult situations in this country that it is people are really on edge all the time. That is not the time to introduce guns. One, when you look at the military industrial complexes that have their citizens holding guns, one, you will see that almost all of them, and the United States included, but not anymore, have a program whereby you have to serve just like our NYSC, but in a military setting, where you're taught to handle guns and to use guns properly. Not all guns are useful in all circumstances. If you're in close combat, you're expected to have small guns like pistols and shotguns. If it's a long range, then you use rifles and the like. But just for people to just go and get guns without knowing how to use it, not understanding the biophysics of it, because when you shoot a gun, there is a law in physics that action and reaction are always equal and opposite. So when you shoot a gun, the force that goes the bullet takes to go out is mass times acceleration. That same force comes back on you, whether your shoulder or your hand, is called ricochet. All of these things need to be taught to people. That is one. Secondly, when we have a lot of children on drugs, it doesn't take a lot of excitement for them to want to settle scores by shooting at one another, because they've not been taught, and there is anger, and they have access to guns. They've not been trained in any shape or form. We have a lot of domestic violence also, where husbands beat their wives, and on some occasions it's the wives beating the husbands. If guns are easily available, that can raise our mortality. There are so many advantages to being able to own guns. One, it improves employment in a way, because you have to have places where they train the range. You know, people will establish ranges, and you'll have shops where these guns are sold. I think 95% of Nigerians, you just need to go on our roads, require psychiatric examination. You know, so psychiatrists will make more money. And as I said,
in order to ascertain if you can really handle guns.
That is correct. And to be trained also. You know, this is...
Well, will those trainings include temperament control?
It should. It should. Because there are people that have a very easy way of getting angry. You know, things just trip them up. And now, because the country is so hard, fruitful collisions, that is, two people or two individuals coming close to one another, because the space between us, especially in the urban areas, is very small. So those collisions may not be as fruitful as possible. Now, people will just shout at one another, and on occasion they'll get into a crude boxing match. Imagine if they have guns.
Now, one cannot entirely fault the governor, but one will have to look at it this way. As much as altruistic his intentions appear, does that mean that, or does that presupposes a failure on our security architecture for the governor to make such and advocacy, and even go ahead and sign out about apply for about 9,500 licenses?
I don't think so. You see, the way our security architecture is, even though the governor is the chief security officer of a state, he still has to come to the center to be able to get the ethos to deploy any security unit. Now, in the United States, you have state police, and within the state, you have counties, like local government areas, like we have here. Those have sheriffs. So there is a scatteriform type of security that we don't have, and we're not thinking of having. It will require that we have much greater IGRs, internally generated revenues, to be able to pay these people. It will make unemployment percentages a lot less, but we need to be able to create IGRs to pay them. A lot of the states cannot sustain themselves. You hear of pensions not being paid, you hear of workers not being paid, and so on and so forth. So to be able to now add workers, I think the whole security situation in the country is really shameful.
Very well. Now, we will be proceeding on commercial break, and when we return to this topic.
And see.
You're welcome back, and we are still having our elder statesman in the house, a medical doctor and a security analyst, Dr. Abdul-Jalil Tafawa Balewa. Now, doctor, again, the kind of guns that will be licensed for the citizens and the kind of bazooka that these terrorists carries. So, when we put the two together, do we actually think that arming the citizens will be an answer to the quest for the security we seek?
Any equipment, when not trained properly to use it, is more a liability than a help. That is one. Secondly, we need to look at our security architecture, build it better. In the United States, for instance, you have, as I said, you have sheriffs, you have the police for a city that's large enough, and you have state police. You have federal police, and then you have security agents, like the FBI. You have special securities also for the VIPs. And then at the top of that, you have some very exceptionally, specially trained people like the Red Berets or the Marshal Service. We don't have anything like that in Nigeria. I think it will be extremely lazy for us to just jump from all the lacunas that we have to now have people going tutting. Even in the United States, you have to remember that before the second amendment, the ability to be able to carry guns and be able to save your family, there were things that happened before. First, the white people left Western Europe to take the land away. They said they found it, even though Indians were living on it. They brought a lot of Africans from Africa as slaves for free labor. So there are a lot of units of safety already created in these cities before you can have people carrying guns. In our case, when it is difficult now to buy a Congo of Gary, how much do you want to pay for the gun? Bullets are there too. Even though when an assailant knows that the person is going to may or may not have some incendiary device in the house or something to protect himself, he will think twice before he invades the property. However, we don't have any thought, any training in that direction. Also, in the United States and in Argentina and Switzerland, where you have citizens holding guns, you have particular units of the citizenry. You can call them ethnic units of the citizenry, but they're not as large as we have in Nigeria. In the United States, for instance, you either have whites, blacks, Hispanics, Indians. In Nigeria, you have, in Taraba alone, you have 850 ethnicities.
That's wonderful.
With their own languages. So you can imagine how difficult it will be to be able to set things in Nigeria. Even now, a lot of our people don't know what's going on in the House of Representatives or in the Senate. Whatever the media trickles down to them, and by the time it trickles to an educated person, and I put those in quotation marks, whatever he sees because of his exposure is what they're saying is what he will translate. By the time the Guluma gets to the third or fourth person, it will have a totally different meaning. So education is still primal. We need to have homogeneous education where everybody will know what their rights are. But to just have people, I mean, you have the country like the United States was in the 30s and 40s, Chicago, where people were just toting guns and shooting one another crazily, and in a place where we don't like order.
One important issue you have raised is the issue of how do we introduce gun licensing to a society that is seriously engrossed in drug abuses and the rest of it, as we've seen. Yes. And we also know that even the security challenges we are contending with are product of illicit drug abuses and trafficking and things of that nature, or rather they enhances it. Now, taking those into consideration, we also knew that of recent it has been a very serious concern and discourse in the United States, where we think the country is advanced enough to hold for the citizens to hold the guns. They are getting concerned because of the increase in social violences, where for a child will take the father's gun to school, shoot 5, shoot 10, and things of that nature.
Absolutely.
When you just opposed that with our quest to license gun for our citizens, what do you see, sir?
I'm sure, Honorable, that you do drive. On our roads, I will say 99% of the drivers on the roads don't have any education of road courtesies or what they're supposed to do driving. Now, that is driving. We have so many cars. You will think that a country as large as Nigeria, the giant of Africa, and so on and so forth, will have driving schools compulsory for drivers to be able to get licenses. I remember when I first came back and I wanted to get a driver's license. I told them all sorts of things at the desk. Nobody listened to me. The driver came to me and said, "Oga, you dey shame me. We know they do this in Nigeria." I gave him 6,000 and a passport picture. In about 10 minutes, I got my license.
Wow.
It will be the same in Nigeria if we're going to have guns just floating around. We need to be better educated. We need a higher percentage of literacy so that each individual is really truly understands what his or her right is to be in that society. We haven't gotten to that yet. Most of the people involved in banditry also are not from here, I was told. They come from other countries like Niger, like Burkina Faso, and so on and so forth. What can we do about that? In a country where we have so many ethnicities, we have so many languages, if somebody tells you that is from a part of the country that you don't really know, there's no way to be able to find out. So border control, population agencies need to work harder, but it still goes back to education. Education. It is the only way to survive.
General education, or what kind of education? Define it, sir.
Okay. Education doesn't necessarily mean getting degrees and all sorts of diplomas and so on and so forth. But as I've always said, education being based on the racines, on the roots of what education should be, the duco ducare dewi detum. For you to be able to understand your environment well enough to make good use of it without disturbing the needs of others. So being able to get to a junior high school level in education, to be able to read or write and know what is wrong or what is right, there is no way we're going to have 100% civil society. But at least we can boast of being able to give each person the ability to make the best use of the Godhead that they were given.
Very well, very well. The military high command, as headed by the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo, also kicked seriously against the move by the Zamfara State governor to license guns for the citizens for self-defense, because if that starts from Zamfara State and it is approved, then you can be very sure many others will take to it a bandwagon effect. So the military kicked against this. What would you recommend as alternative in order that those governors can be at rest? That yes.
Well, this may sound very harsh, but you see, everybody is suffering in Nigeria. I don't think that what is happening to bandits is our answer. The more of them that are really eliminated, and I mean eliminated, the harder it will be for somebody else to want to be a bandit. That is one. Our government have not just this government, several governments since the first coup have not thought about creating jobs for the citizenry. A lot of the governors coming, they have absolutely no idea what they want to do for their citizens, but because they're somebody's godson, or they have been able to acquire, albeit fraudulently, monies from some other enterprise, he who has more money wins. I have not seen one governor until very recently, Governor Soludo in Anambra. I have not seen any governor that have any manifesto that he actually proposes during campaigns. All the parties have manifestos, but when you go to a political rally, whether it's PDP, power to the people, I mean, they can shout that 100 times during a rally, or if it's APC, I forgot. Change. And that's it. But nobody thinks anything about it. 2023 is coming. I think it's about time that our people really look within. Whoever cannot do them any good should not be voted for. I think every Nigerian life should be as important to Nigeria what every American life is to the United States of America. An important life. And just because, you know, we're all born of a woman, there's no one born with two heads, every life should be treated as important. And each individual should know that he's being sent to this earth is to achieve something, and shouldn't sell their vote for 4 years for 5,000. You saw what happened in Ekiti. Fayose was really trounced in the PDP because Ekiti people came out and said they don't want stomach infrastructure anymore. We don't have the time for that. At the rate we're going, there's going to be another slavery coming. I pray to God
it never comes.
that it never comes to Nigeria. I pray to God it never comes to Nigeria, because we have a much higher population than most African countries. A much higher population of illiterates, a much higher population of drug users, a much higher population of violent, thuggish children, and a much higher population of the youth, uneducated youth. Very easily, we can become the citizens of the next slave trade. I pray to God it does not happen.
We pray it does not happen. We pray it does not happen.
Amen.
Talking about the concerns that makes the governor of Zamfara to make that kind of a move, which is the general concerns of all Nigerians, and which will make some other people who are not vast on what implications such things can engender if we go that way, and things of see it as altruistic move. And many Nigerians are of the strong opinion that the reasons why we are not winning the war against these insurgents as we should is not because our military or our security forces are not strong enough, but that there are corrupt elements that are sabotaging the fight in whichever way. Do you agree with this?
I agree to disagree.
Okay.
Nigeria was the chief constituent of ECOMOG. Nigerian army had been in Burma, they were in the Second World War, they were in the Congo, they go on this United Nations peace missions and come back with flying colors. How then will they not be able to protect their own land? Now, all these bandits and herders and lunatics that are arrested and are given amnesty and then absorbed into the Nigerian army and the Nigerian police.
The Nigerian army and the police refused and said they have never absorbed any one of them. So
perhaps, I mean, it's always good to say that. I think they need to prove that more to the Nigerian populace. One of the things I thought that Nigeria will do when the Boko Haram thing started was to embed a lot of our security forces into the Boko Haram. If you have noticed recently,
you're talking about infiltrating them?
Yes,
okay.
And embedding. In more recent times, we found people in the army being seen as sympathizers and collaborators with these hoodlums. Now, can you imagine the hoodlums embedding in the formal Nigerian army? Even though the army denies it, you shouldn't expect them to accept. But I know that they will do something, or they may be doing something even now to be able to rout them out of the system. But until we see more and more of these people that infiltrate our lands, and where opportunities are for Ruga, we shouldn't have that. It seems as if we're the only country in the world that run cows for thousands of miles. For what? Looking for fodder? This can be grown. In most other countries, grass is grown with irradiated acrylamide that 1 gram of which can absorb up to 1,000 cc's of water. You can grow grass faster. Large expanses can be given to them per state or per senatorial districts nationwide where they can roam, and then you can establish a modern ruga. They don't need to be going all over the country destroying other people's farms. They are farmers also. They're pastoral farmers. The vegetable farmers need our protection as much as we need theirs. And a lot of them are not Nigerians. The Fulanis in Nigeria have always been here. And there's never been this type of disruption. So sometimes I wonder if we're moving to another planet, because some of the things that happen in our country don't make sense.
But the security challenges that are really confronting us today appear to have transcended the issue of the farmer herders conflict. It's so appear that it has become a paramount industry. Your take on this?
It is, and one of the things that's bothersome, and this goes back with the gun lobby also, in that in the Southwest, for instance, they believe that all their forests are occupied by gun-toting herders. Now, if everybody is free to get guns, there's going to be ethnic fighting, ethnic shooting, ethnic war all over the place. The Southeast doesn't have much land. If these herders also occupy their land and we now have access to guns, I mean, there will not be Nigeria anymore. You might just see a few Nigerians going around with so many holes in them looking like Swiss cheese. It's going to be a terrible place. And I think it's very lazy of any leader to suggest that we all should have guns.
Alternatively, because we are about rounding up, alternatively now, what will you suggest that we do in order to get our people to regenerate the confidence of our people in our security forces and our collective to defend ourselves?
We need a Nigerian government, a government that really thinks of Nigerian citizens. What I mean by that, there are ethnicities in many parts of West Africa, for instance, that have that have akin ethnicities in Nigeria. Benin, for instance, is that. And when you look at our northeast border, the Germans and the French and the British just kind of drew a line, but there are people on both sides of the borders that speak the same language, same in the north and same to the west. We need a government that will secure the lives of those within the map called Nigeria, and secure it in the best of ways. Like I said earlier, that a Nigerian life is important, and others should be kept out. They're citizens of other places. I have no qualms about us helping our brothers and sisters in other countries, but let them stay where they were born. And we will take care of our own.
So if you have one word for the government in one description, how to avert the dangerous alternative of licensing ourselves with guns, what would that be, sir?
When a bandit is caught, he needs to be eliminated.
When a bandit is caught, he needs to be eliminated. Our elder statesman, we have been talking with Dr. Abdul-Jalil Tafawa Balewa, a medical doctor and socio-political analyst and a security expert. Now, regarding the issues of the Zamfara state government, that coming from a government angle is a very strong one, that we should license a gun. The elder statesman has painted a very vivid picture. A society that is pervaded with drug abuses and unsynchronized angers and temperament in the system, resulting from what we call gross unemployment, hopelessness, and things of that nature. Inability to meet needs by the people, aggravated systemic anger, cannot drive themselves dangerously into possessing guns. That is how we will be drawing the curtain on this segment of discourse on nationalism and you this morning. But don't change the channel, because more are coming for you on the platform of ITV. We will always be here to educate, to inform, and to entertain you. But till next week, Thursday, when you have me back on Nationalism and You, I remain your host, Ebenezer Oyetaki.